Church leaders in Northern Ireland have hit out at government plans to introduce a compulsory common curriculum for sex education, not least because it would require all post-primary schools there to provide information about access to abortion services and the prevention of early pregnancies. Until now, each school in Northern Ireland could decide their own lesson plans, leading to many inconsistencies. A recent human rights report found that some schools were telling their pupils that same-sex relationships are immoral. The Northern Ireland Secretary, Chris Heaton-Harris, says he is introducing these reforms because he is legally obliged to do so, to implement the recommendations of a recent United Nations report from the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW. But his own parliamentary private secretary, the MP Robin Miller, resigned in order to vote against the government's plans in the Commons. He's been telling me why.
It was quite a straightforward matter, actually, William. I've been concerned for a while, as I know many parents across the UK, in England and especially here in Wales, have expressed concerns about RSE, about sex education. And I found myself then being asked to vote for a statutory instrument which would introduce sex education legislation in Northern Ireland. But there were questions being asked about the amount of scrutiny that had had, about the opportunity to consult with parents. And I just felt it was an irreconcilable position. I couldn't call for one thing in one place and then vote for another elsewhere. So it's a circle I can't square.
The reforms you're opposing mirror the approach already taken in England, providing factual information in age-appropriate ways about, for example, the prevention of early pregnancies, access to abortion services. Shouldn't young people in Northern Ireland be given the same factual information that young people in England receive?
Well, that's not an entirely correct representation of this. You know, as a union, we have diverse parts, and I think it's fair to say that in Northern Ireland, the question of abortion, for example, facts about abortion, are more sensitive and attract a greater attention than they might do in other parts of the UK. So the issue of whether something is contested or settled is really important. And in this case, an argument which on the face of it is just presenting information and such seems reasonable. But actually, there is an opportunity for the presentation of something like abortion. And I stress this isn't just about abortion, but there's the opportunity to present it in the context of religious education and not in RSE. Now, that would make a lot more sense in a place like Northern Ireland, where the education sector is dominated by faith-based schools. RSE doesn't allow it the same context. And so effectively, you're presenting something as settled, which isn't settled in that culture. So it isn't actually comparable to England at all.
When it comes to parents, of course, disagree amongst themselves about all kinds of things, from the age of the earth, creationism, evolution, sexuality, abortion services, and much more. Which parents should be given the right to determine the curriculum in your view?
Well, I think actually, if you have to go back to the parents' role in education. Parents have not abdicated their responsibility and set it and handed it over to the state. They have an integral role in the education of their children. So this isn't about an argument between which set of parents controls the curriculum. I would argue, first of all, it's about the parents' right to determine how their child is educated and what they are taught. So I would fully support the right of parental withdrawal from education.
Which is included in this measure, isn't it?
Well, as importantly, it's not clear. It's not clear. And the timing of this was something that the House of Lords Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee commented on. And potentially right now you've got the situation where teachers and governors in Northern Ireland schools are confronted with teaching and delivering something they may not agree with. But I would just stress, though, that there's something very important here about the parents having visibility and sight on what children are taught. And that has been a problem in England. Definitely it's a problem here in Wales. And I suspect it may be a problem too in parts of Northern Ireland. Parents must be involved and they must be able to see the materials their children are being taught. It's not about who wins the argument over what is actually taught.
The MP Robin Miller